Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Hello Dave Take 2. I've just been sitting here for the last half an hour recording this week's Hello Dave. Began editing and, well, Mike died after a minute. So I had 1 minute of me talking and then 29 minutes of my face with no audio. So let's try that again. We're going to start this week out in Star Citizen where there's been a roadmap update. First of all, there's going to be a lot of changes to the tractor beam. I have a segment later in this video where I'm going to talk much more about that. Basically, we're going to be allowed to attach and detach exterior modules and probably also internal modules from our ships using the tractor beam. We know this is coming in a while, but now CIG is beginning to talk about it. I'll share more about that later. Also, new player experience is being added into the game. That basically means a tutorial. Introducing new players into the game. Something the game has needed for quite a while, both because I think a lot of players is being lost in that initial half hour. People go in, they wake up in a bed and they can't figure out how to get to the ship. They get lost in the landing zones, and when they get to the ship, how do they open the hangar, how do they control the ship? There's so many players being lost here, and this is why a lot of people you need to have an experienced player sitting with you, explaining, answering your questions the first half hour. So getting a tutorial in to kind of do that, I think is going to be a massive, massive improvements to the game. And it also begins to show that CIG is becoming more confident in the product that they are delivering now. Because it means that the areas they're making tutorials for is probably areas where they begin to feel more confident that it's going to stay close to this, because you don't want to make a tutorial about something that you're going to change a lot later, because that means you have to redo your tutorials, which is a lot of work and just adds work. And also the new ship, on a vehicle actually, not a ship, it's a service vehicle, RSI Lynx, which seems to be a luxury version of the Ursa rover. So if you ever wanted that, then congratulations, because that seems to be a thing that's going to come in the game later. We haven't really seen a lot of these luxury ground vehicles. So far it's all been hover bikes and military vehicles that's been added, and not a lot of these luxury surface vehicles. 318 is currently running a PTU weekend, so for you it would probably be over, but over the weekend they've been running a PTU for update 318.1. It's quite unusual we see PTUs for these point updates. As many of you will know, CIG and Star Citizen has seen quite some issues with the 318 patch, with poor performance, and especially around the whole claiming ships, selling stuff, anything that requires a transaction to go out to the server when you want to get your ship or store your ship or send some money somewhere. All that stuff has been really, really performing poorly, and they've been testing a new system for that over on the PTU. All of this transferring ship ASOP thing worked fine on the PTU when 318 was being tested. It was only when it hit the live servers and the increased load over there that it began to see some issues. So you might think that how can they then test it on the PTU? We know it worked fine on the PTU last time. And that's a fair point, but I guess they've made some rework of the entire system, and they're just making sure that actually works. I'm expecting this to be quite a short PTU, and that 318.1 should be coming pretty soon. There has also been a lot of talks about wipes with the 318.1, and there is likely going to be one. The information about these wipes changed faster than I can write notes for Hello Dave. So at one point there was no wipes, and they said, oh, they're aiming for not having to wipe anything. Then there was what they're talking about now is a wipe of items and ships only, and that means that something like reputation and aUEC, so credits and reputation, is gonna stay and not be wiped. These partial wipe was something they added in, was it 316, 317, around one of those two patches, I think, where they added the ability to do a partial wipe, where prior to that it was full wipe or no wipe. But now they can do these partial wipes. And that's what they're going to do here. There has also been some talk that maybe they could do something with run through the logs and figure out what ships people have bought, since it's a very short period of time since the last wipe with 318. Maybe they can do that so they don't have to wipe ships. There's some back and forth, and the exact extent of this upcoming wipe with 318.1 is not really 100%. But for now, it is items and ships. Looking even further forward to update 319 and beyond, 319 seems to be, they're aiming for at least already in May. May is 2 months from now. I mean, what? I've barely scratched the surface of 3.8 or 3.9. 319 is in May. I keep getting these mixed up. 319 is aimed for in May, 318 is now, but I have barely scratched the surface on 318, the current patch, because of all these server issues. Every time I've gone in, this is also why you haven't seen guides, tutorials out for the salvage stuff yet, because when I go in and I try to play with it, I can't get these consistent play sessions in where I really get a chance to go in depth. And because there are so many bugs, sometimes where there are things I don't really understand, I'm not really sure if it's the servers that are misbehaving or if it's me doing something wrong, or like all those things are just, it's difficult to test, it's difficult to make guides around it. And also when the game is in this limbo state, it's not a good time to make guides, because that means that the game state is super volatile, and I might make a guide that might be invalidated before I even done rendering it, which has happened before. And I really want to avoid that, because it sucks making an entire video, like laying it out, recording it, b-rolling it, going in, editing it carefully, and then as you sit, you render, you get ready to upload. It's like, oh, by the way, we fixed some things. Now this is like, okay, great, that video is now trash. Make it again. Just like this, hello, Dave. Anyway, I'm getting off track here. 319 seems to be in May, and one of the large features for this update, we already talked about a number of them in previous hello, Daves, but that is the ability for basically taking equipment off derelict ships. So in this current patch, 318, we got introduction to the new soft death system, where when a ship is destroyed, instead of just blowing up to a gazillion pieces at despawning, it will instead be in a powered down state where you can go and you can dispose of the people inside if they're still alive. You can steal their cargo. You can scrape salvage material off the hull of the ship. And when 318 comes around, you're also going to be able to use the tractor beam to pull weapons, ordnance, like missiles, and likely also internal compartments. Not sure if internal compartments is in 19 or if that's coming later. Warp drives, power plants, cooling systems, all those things that we can fit on our ship is going to be able to be taken out and transferred over. So you can either sell it for money, or maybe upgrade your own ship with it if they're actually the right size and fit in and the connectors are correct and stuff like that. So that's quite fun, and it actually changes PvP in a very interesting way. And this is one of the very, very few situations, very few games that I've seen where there has been an implementation of PvP where you actually have the potential to make it profitable. Because in many other games, PvP's main focus is go kill that other guy, and then you get the bragging rights. And either you do it because you want the challenge of fighting other players, or you want it because you want to see some salt in chat. You want to see people cry in chat, or you want to have the haha, I'm better than him feeling. That's often the focus of PvP. But with this whole like taking weapons off them, taking cargo, salvaging their ship, all that, there's some real money, in-game money to be made from. And I think that's quite unique, and it's not something that I've seen in a lot of other games. I'm sure there are other games that does it out there, but most games, their implementation of PvP is just, ha ha ha, I'm better than you. There are more updates with tractor beams, because after 319, so beyond 319, there are going to be more changes to tractor beams. Tractor beams going to get a more combat-focused use case, where you can use tractor beams to basically catch criminals. So if you want to catch another player, you're going to be able to do that. Whether it's going to be a special version of the tractor beam or not, I don't know. So they're at least going to be able to move more than just cargo around. I assume that moving, like trying to capture another player like that, is going to be considered a hostile action, similar to trying to shoot them. Because it is, obviously not going to be able to run around the cities and just pick people up as you please. There's going to be some kind of restrictions. You're likely going to get a crime stat if you do so. We know that a lot of ships already have prison cells on board, and this means that all of a sudden the whole running around being a policeman, capturing criminals, putting them into a prison cell, and then handing them over to the authorities is all of a sudden a very possible game loop. But of course also opens up for kidnapping, where you just go out and fight a poor player who has been out exploring a cave somewhere on the back end of some moon, and then you're like, you're coming with me, sunshine, and then you plug him into a prison cell, fly them off to some place, and you extort them for money or whatever. I don't know. It opens up for a lot of emerging gameplay when you add these kinds of tools into the game, and it's going to be hilarious to see what happens when players get their hands on this kind of tech. Ship-based tractor beams is obviously also going to be a thing, not only for moving cargo around, but also for similar things as we just talked about with a handheld. That obviously you're going to be able to pull in like salvage, pull it in closer to you so it's easier to salvage, especially for something like the reclaimer that's big and bulky and not easy to move. Having a tractor beam so you can move that's going to be a huge addition. But also just like pulling in like saddlebags from the Prospector. The Prospector is designed with these expanding saddlebags that you eject, and then other ships can pick them up and then extract the materials to refine. But you're also going to be able to catch like smaller ships and ground vehicles. And now we're back in similar territory with catching criminals or kidnapping people. Whereas if people are flying in a small, nimble fighter, you might be able to come in your big, honking, capital-sized, massive ship with a tractor beam and just go boom, capture them into a hangar, close it up, fly away with them. I know it sounds hilarious and quite fun. And obviously, you're not going to be able to fly around in a small fighter and then tractor people around. These ship-sized tractor beams is something you're going to see on quite big vessels, I think. Okay, move over to Elite Dangerous. Just check, does the mic still work? I'm still getting meter on my mic, so that should be good. Okay, moving over to Elite Dangerous. Update 15 has been moved. It is now likely to be the end of May, but at least sometime in May. Usually when Frontier say that it is in Q1 or inside a certain month, it means the end of that period. So end of May is my guess. It's about 2 months from now when we see update 15 added to the game, and this is supposed to be the one that adds this next big step in the Thargoid War. Exactly what that's going to be, we don't know. Frontier hasn't shared anything with us at all, so there's not really a lot to talk about. I think everybody's assuming that it's going to have something to do with the maelstroms, as there's been some Galnet stuff around it. We're getting more like a caustic sinks and that kind of stuff. So likely it's going to mean we're finally going to be able to breach the maelstrom and figure out what's in there in the middle. We don't know. A lot of people, myself included, is hoping for on-foot Thargoids, so we're finally going to be able to go on and pew-pew shoot some Thargoids in the face. I don't know. Nobody seems to know, but we can hope and we can dream. Frontier has also shared some, not really some news, but a little bit of information about this massive feature rework that we have been talking about for a very long time. We've heard about this, I think it was last year, and there was a lot of talk about it, and there's been a lot of speculations about it. But now we finally get a bit of information about when we can get more information. Frontier said that they're going to be able to share more information about this major feature rework at the end of this year, meaning that the rework itself is likely going to be somewhere in the first half of next year, which is quite far away from now. What feature it is they're reworking? Still don't know. But there's some indications which direction Frontier is going, as they have closed applications for all further player factions. And that means that if you want to have a player faction in game and you haven't applied yet, it's too late. The applications that are already in will be processed, but you can't send in new applications. And it's actually funny, I was talking about this last week in Hello Dave. I had a long segment where I talked about this problem where there's becoming less and less space in the bubble, and it's becoming more and more difficult for player factions to maneuver, as most systems these days has a player faction in it. But because of this closure of player factions, that kind of indicates to me that this rework is likely going to be something to do with either BGS or power play, maybe both. It's because they gave no reason for why they're closing it. Just said, we're doing this, and this is the way it is. No further comment. There has been like 2 major features that people have been discussing could be candidates for this feature rework. One of them was engineering, because Frontier did this huge focused feedback period where they had a lot of feedback around how people would like to see engineering change in the future, all that stuff, but nothing really came of it. So people always thought, they might have been collecting feedback for this major feature rework, even though that engineering has seen updates in the past. Something power play haven't, and a lot of people also assume there was power play because it's one of those relatively big features in the game that nobody's using, and this hasn't seen any kind of attention or love for Frontier since it was launched 6, 7, 8 years, I don't know if you know, many years ago now. So it was a very likely candidate. With the closure of applications for player minor factions, I'm pretty sure that it is something to do with power play. maybe something to do with BGS, maybe both. Maybe they're going to be closer intertwined into each other, so they can be I don't know exactly how, why, what, but that is my assumption that we're going to see something along those lines. Now, if you are playing on console and you didn't make the first round of console transfers, then listen up now, because the console transfer is back. Yes, if you haven't transferred your console account over to PC and you wish to do so, they are going to return with the console transfer portal here in April. So that is in just a few weeks. Not really sure exactly when they're opening it up, but they are going to do the transfer. And of course, that means that you're going to be able to copy your account. It's actually, transfer is the wrong word, because transfer indicates that it disappears on console. That's not the case. Command is being moved from console and copied over to PC. That means both characters exist at the same time. They're just basically a fork in the road from that point on. They're not linked together. You can't just play on one and then go and continue to play on the other. If you play on one, that change won't affect the other. But most things are going to be transferred over. Money, reputation, ranks, statuses, all those things like is going to transfer over. Your ships, your engineer modules, everything's transferring over. Suit, weapons for Odyssey 2. Some of the things that doesn't transfer over is stuff like your fleet carrier. You might have to change your commander name if that commander name is already taken on PC. It's basically the same round as it was with the first round of console transfers. They're just now reopening for it again. So if you haven't transferred your account yet, then it seems that here in April they're going to open up the portal. How long it's going to stay open, if it's just going to be and stay open for as long as you like window, I don't know. Or if there's going to be a limited period again, I don't know. But at least it's going to open up here sometime in April. Finally, live streams. Before we talk about the topic, I want to talk about the time, as we here in Central Europe has now swapped over to daylight saving, and that means that live streams has moved. So instead of being 8 o'clock GMT, it is now 7 o'clock GMT. Because daylight saving, we're now streaming 7 in the evening GMT and not 8 in the evening GMT. So 7 o'clock GMT, same place as before, YouTube and Twitch. The topic for tomorrow's live stream is going to be more Spaceborne. I've been playing a lot of Spaceborne. I kind of thought I was like, I did mining and thought, okay, I figured it out. I wanted to go and explore other avenues of the game. And we looked at exploration last time. I did have quite a few bugs with it, and it ended up being a combat stream somehow. I don't know how that happened, but it did. I want to go and look at salvage this time. See if we can figure out how salvage works. I haven't looked at it at all. I've been encountering some of these like salvage yards around. I did pay a visit to one of them. Couldn't really figure out what to do there. So I just thought, okay, well, let's make a live stream. Let's go, let's explore salvaging together in Spaceborne 2. See if we can figure out how it works. As always, I'm probably going to go in relatively blind. I'm not going to go and do a ton of research beforehand. So if you're expecting a showcase, then it's not going to be a live stream for you. But if you want to go and have some fun with it and see if we can figure out how it works, then come by tomorrow, either on YouTube or on Twitch at 7 o'clock GMT. I hope I'll see a lot of you guys there. Thanks a lot for watching. And also next time, I'll see you guys in space.